But again, we just want to thank you for sharing your Tuesday night. We are so grateful that you're a part of this greenhouse community and that you share the value of this unique learning opportunity and networking opportunity. So we're going to show you the layout for the evening on this agenda. And what we'll go into, we're going to start with advisor introductions. But before we do that, I just want to reiterate the importance of these sessions when it comes to leadership, professional, and personal development. So Advisors in Residence is a unique and comprehensive learning opportunity for alumni within our Young Leaders program to grow within those three themes of leadership, professional, and personal development. This is the second of 4 sessions in our series. And last month's session was the leadership theme, particularly ongoing assessment of leadership growth. And some of the alumni here tonight were also on that session. So thank you for joining 2 in a row. And some of you might be joining all 4 of them. I hope so. And tonight we're focused on the professional theme, how attitude impacts individual and organizational success. So there's 2 more upcoming sessions, the whole person session on March 18th, and then the all advisor session on the 29th. So we'll go into advisor introductions, and after that, we'll have our advisor panel. This is a Q&A between us, myself asking the advisors questions that they will answer. If you do have questions during that time, alumni, please think of those, please just make note of those for questions that you could bring to your breakout group. If you don't have that advisor in your breakout group, then you can ask them either at the end if there's time or afterwards when you connect. And then we'll get into alumni introductions and the 2 breakout groups. There'll be 2 15-minute breakout groups. All right. So with our advisors eager to be here and to get started and to get to know all of you, let's do a little overview of their background. So Rachel is a returning advisor. She's of counsel at DLA Piper. Lewis is cheering for her, Chicago. Over 20 years of professional experience. She thrives in complex corporate transactions, and for when she's, I'm sure it's hard to find spare time, Rachel, but when you do, you're dedicated to supporting not only Greenhouse, but the Chicago on minorities and large law firms, and right now immigration pro bono work, which is incredible. So thank you for that. And we want to ask you some fun questions. Rachel, if you can name a professional leader or executive that fully embraces positivity to drive organizational success, who would that be?
So that would be my dad. His name is Jesse Huang. My dad is like captain best attitude ever. He has always, just growing up and even now, he is 70 years old. He's just a really super upbeat guy. Funny story about him. He manages a commercial janitorial company in Oklahoma. That's where I grew up. And about 5 years ago, he got a diagnosis of cancer. It was really, really bad. We were basically told, we just don't know how much longer Jesse has. We're like, okay, so we were all just taking it in, and we flew to MD Anderson in Houston, and he was able to have like a life-changing procedure there that basically just kind of like reset a lot. But he became known in the hospital ward as like the Asian guy that was just like shadow boxing in the halls. He was just determined that like he physically had to stay fit, his mind had to be positive, and he had to just kind of like pummel through what was to come, because once that dies, he was convinced like that would just lead to his physical death. So Jesse is my hero.
Wow, what an inspiring role model. That's amazing, and I can relate in some way. We'll have to talk about that offline. Rachel, thank you. And how about if you could instantly become an expert in something unrelated to your work, what would it be?
It would have to be interior design. So I'm currently building a house, and it's been prolonged quite a bit. In part, might be a little bit my fault because I keep changing my mind. It's because I know how to dress myself, I know how to dress my family, but putting together couches and decor for a house would not. I wish I could be an expert just like that.
But that's why there are the experts that can help you with that, right? That would be fun. All right. So our other returning advisor is Tom Thompson. He is our VP, not our VP. He's a VP of creative advertising at St. Martin's Press and over 34 years in publishing. He's a poet and a published author and is an active volunteer within education, arts, publishing, and soccer. And he had a very busy day, we just found out, with book launch discussions. Tom, I'm sure you're tired. Thank you so much for being here. Tom, same questions for you. Can you name a professional leader or executive that fully embraces positivity to drive organizational success?
Yeah, one who really occurs to me right off the bat is Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. Um, Microsoft was obviously this huge company, first mover in the software space, really in the 80s and crushing it in the 90s. And then it kind of got stale. It got a little, it was not a fun place to work. There wasn't a lot of innovation happening there. And he came in and really embraced mindsets of empathy and collaboration, and it really changed the trajectory of the whole company. It became a great place to work. I mean, you can see what's happening just in terms of AI is the sort of the obvious use case now, but even before the OpenAI collaboration, Microsoft really was expanding and becoming a great place to work. So he's a huge inspiration for me. Just to he didn't really do much, but bring in that mindset change, and it made a huge difference. And then I would say closer to home, I would say the CEO of our company, John Yeagood, is very focused on making Macmillan, which is the larger publishing company that I work for, the place to be. And he's done that through adding wellness days to our calendar, so days off where nobody can email other people. You've got to just chill and like do your thing. He's brought food in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which and anybody in Silicon Valley will not be impressed with, but I can tell you in book publishing, it's a huge deal. We have very tiny, tight margins, so to bring that in is really makes it a warmer place. It inspires us to gather and over a meal, which normally you're not just going at the desk. You go down to the cafeteria and you meet with your colleagues. And he's really it's been a terrific attitude shift at work, and we've seen the results in our performance. We've had our best years ever the last 4 years.
Wow. That's great to be so close to such a leader like that and to see the results. Yeah, those small things go a long way. That's a good story. And Tom, what about you? If you could instantly become an expert in something unrelated to work, what would it be?
Well, I mean, I have this great job where so many the things that are related to my work are really interesting to me. So copywriting, design, advertising, data science, increasingly all things AI. None of these things I am expert in, but all of these things I have access to experts, and that's one of the great things about my job. But I would say, but those are all related to my work. So I would love to become better versed in all of those things. But for me, it's geology, and that came about a year ago. My son moved to Flagstaff, Arizona, and I went there for the first time. I'd never really been to the Southwest, and I went to the Grand Canyon. I went to the Petrified Forests, and the sense of scale blew my mind. So, we think in terms of a scale of a lifetime, or years, or, quarterly, if you're in a corporate environment, trying to hit your numbers. But when you're hit with that kind of scale of millions and millions and millions of years, and you can see it all right in front of you, it puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, how profound. What a great experience. It makes you feel like nothing in the world, right? But also being
In a
connected
great
at
way,
the same
right?
time. Yeah.
If that's empowering, and it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, geology for Tom. All right, Dr. Shawana Moore, one of our new advisors for 2025 and 2026. And she's an associate professor with an MSN, or associate professor with multiple acronyms after her name, and I'll get to those. But for the MSN and DNP Programs Director at Emory University, she's in Atlanta, and over 15 years in healthcare, first African-American president of the National Association of Nurse Practitioners, and change maker for women's health and equities for women of color. A very, very busy woman. So happy that you're on this team. Shawana, say hello.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. As Jenny mentioned, I am in Atlanta, and by training, I am a women's health nurse practitioner and also an educator and a researcher. But most importantly, I'm a human being that has a diversity of experiences and an impactful story that I share quite often to help inspire other aspiring scholars to reach their dreams and goals. So I'm thrilled to be with you all here today.
Nice. You've got a shout out to Atlanta from Vicky.
Oh, awesome.
Shawana, who's your professional leader or executive that fully embraces positivity to drive change?
So one of my favorite people, I actually got the opportunity to call her this week. Her name is Reverend Dr. Lorena Marshall Blake. And she is a little person with a whole lot of energy. And she's known around Philadelphia as the Hat Lady, but she is the president of Independence Blue Cross Foundation in Philadelphia. And she is responsible for growing that organization from a $10 million organization to a $60 million organization. But I think more importantly, she's a very warm person, and she normalizes executive leadership in communities. And she is somebody who is boots on the ground with the community, working along them side by side to ensure the community has the resources, education, and access to health care that they need, regardless of their socioeconomic status, as well as taking into considerations social determinants of health. So she is a firestorm. She's 74 years young. A breast cancer survivor. She takes part in various runs and walks every year, but she's a down-to-earth person. I mean, she can sit at the level table up with the president and then sit down with school-age kids to read books. So she's a very warm person that really makes changes and does that really through a lens of equity. So she's an executive leader that I admire and I aspire to become once I'm much wiser in age.
Have you started your hat collection?
Not yet. See, I have this thing with earrings. So I think my thing is going to be like big
Okay.
earrings, whether they be studs or long ones.
Good to know. And if you could instantly become an expert in something unrelated to work, Shawana, what would it be for you?
You know, I would be an artist, specifically painting. I find it very therapeutic. I had the opportunity when I was in Philadelphia to take part in various workshops that utilize art. And I think there's such synergy in humanities. So if I had the opportunity to change careers, I would be an artist.
You do a lot with that. Great.
Yep.
All right. And our final advisor, who is also new to 2025 and 2026, is Sid Prosher. And he's a senior partner at Modern Executive Solutions. He started as a computer engineer and then turned pro strategist. That's what I call you. Passionate about youth education and supporting people who are blind. Sid, let's say hello, and we'll get into your questions as well.
Nice to meet all of you.
All right. Do you have a professional leader or executive that fully embraces positivity that you've noticed or admired?
I do. I think the one that comes to mind when we frame it that way is probably Laszlo Bock, who was the chief people officer at Google when I joined them about a decade ago. This is someone who I credit taking this warm, fuzzy back office mindset of a boring HR that people used to consider people stuff with, and really bringing it to the forefront with data and analytics and really thinking like a business person. I often think of him as a chief marketing officer and a chief people officer's role. But what he really did for the function and the people in that function is bring a lot of pride and excitement about people being the center of everything and complexity around people, really what we're trying to solve for and make better. So someone who I think really has changed the conversation of what people issues and people's challenges and systems in companies need to be around.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like something so basic that everybody should do, but clearly it isn't embraced by all leaders, huh?
And he was the one who could be credited for even creating some of the terms like people analytics and really bringing those kinds of conversations to the forefront where HR really started to get a seat at the table.
Wow, that's neat. That's a really good story. We'll have to look up. Sid, if you could instantly become an expert in something unrelated to your work, what would it be for you?
Gosh, there's a Chinese proverb called "May you live in interesting times," and I think these are such interesting times with everything going on around us. AI probably is top of mind for me. Just when I think I've read an article and understand a little bit more about AI, something has changed and new things are possible now. And if I look back decades ago to when I was starting out professionally, it's incredible what we can do now and what power we have at our fingertips now. So being a deeper and a better expert in AI, using it, applying it, better understanding it, I think would really be something I'd love to do better.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling you just might do that.
And a real quick shout out to Tom. I love your story, Tom, about the Grand Canyon. There's a video on YouTube around the scale of the universe. Talk of bringing perspective to the conversation. It really changes how we see ourselves and our place in the conversation.
Yeah, if
Astrophysics.
that's a
Yeah,
book to
after
share.
geology, I'll do astrophysics.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I was going to say after geology, I'll become an expert in astrophysics. That's the next.
Okay, thank you. It's really good to get a little sense of your personal interests, and everyone was shared your full bios as well. So these, of course, are just some bullets, but if you want to read the full bios, I believe Jamie put that in the chat if you hadn't already. So let's move on to our panel discussion. This is about how attitudes impacts individual and organizational success. We're going to provide guidance to lean into a positive mindset that drives positive and fulfilling work environments. So the first question is going to be answered by all four of you advisors, and that is, what have you learned from your peers or role models throughout your career when it comes to how attitudes impact organizational success? Rachel, we'll start with you.
I think in my career, I've seen that the people who have positive attitudes, who have positive demeanor, they are the ones who that's who I want to be, right? And I found that when I was a young associate looking to work with partners, looking to work with, senior associates, I instantly gravitated towards them. So did everybody else. But I think you'll find in the workplace when it's kind of a free market system where you can find whoever you want to work with, and the supervisor also gets to pick who they want. It's like positive minds kind of link up together. And so when you're able to do that and find a really good, like a mentor manager match, and you also have a positive, attitude, and you guys work well together, there's a lot of just really great synergies. For me, it really helped me learn a lot and learn a lot of substance, learn really quickly, and it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. So simple to just be drawn to positivity,
Yeah.
right? But it isn't everywhere. Sid, what about you? What have you learned from your peers or role models throughout your career?
I'll say positivity is the gift that keeps on giving. And to Rachel's point, workplace is like a free market. When you are an individual contributor earlier in your career, perhaps, you are the person that people want on their teams because of your positivity. Later on, as you become into a more of a supervisor role, people want to be on your teams again because of your positivity. So that really starts to permeate and create the right kind of workplace people want to be associated with. If I think of the common traits that folks that I have looked up to and feel have been really positive I'd say curiosity, a growth mindset, and positivity are the ones I associate with them. So positivity is right up there when I start thinking of what makes people special, what makes them successful, who do I want to emulate or look up to in my career.
Yeah, that's a good way to just simplify it with curiosity, positivity, and a growth mindset. That's good. Good takeaway. Tom, what would you add to this?
Yeah, it's so interesting as you were talking about that, Sid, I was thinking about the reason I ended up in advertising. I was interested in books. I knew I was interested in books. I answered an ad that said, "Are you interested in books?" And it ended up being for an advertising agency. And I was like, "Oh, advertise. I'm not interested in advertising. I'm interested in books." But the person I was talking to was so positive and just radiated such wonderful energy. I said, I just want to work for you. Whatever you're doing, I want to do that. And that ended up being a really good course of action. And it ended up being hand in hand with books, which was perfect for me. But then I'm thinking about, I've been very lucky in my bosses, and I was thinking about a through line with them. And there's an aspect of, it's sort of like positivity in action. It's trust. They hired me to do a job. They made sure that I knew what the job was, and then they gave me the space to do it. And they, made sure, we would have check-ins to make sure that I, wasn't going off the rails or anything. But basically, they gave me the space to make the job my own, and that made me feel good. It made me better at my job, and it feels like sort of positivity in action, um, that aspect of trust.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Shawana, is there anything else that you'd add to this that's different from what these three have said?
I think I can add a bit more. I think the biggest thing for me for positivity tends to lead to solutions. And when you are within organizations, people want solutions, right? There are always challenges and roadblocks, but positive people tend to come at it with a sense of solution. And positive people that are solution oriented tend to grow faster within an organization because people gravitate to them as mentors and natural leaders, right? So I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to positivity connects directly to solution-based thought process. And people gravitate to that, and individuals who embody and amplify positivity tend to have quicker growth or steady growth within organizations.
Yeah, I see a lot of nodding heads. People have experienced this or maybe seen this. That's great. So the next question is about attitudes and outcomes. And alumni, you're going to have a chance to weigh in here. There's a yes or no question, poll question, that's going to be prompted on your screen. The question to the advisors is to tell us about a time where a shift in attitude positively changed project attitudes and outcomes. And your poll question is the yes or no version of that. So Jesse's going to launch this poll. Everyone can answer, even staff, if it pops up for you too, you can answer it. Have you experienced a time where a shift in attitude positively changed project attitudes or outcomes? So give that your answer and then submit. And then Shawana is going to answer this after we see the results real quick. Okay, Jesse's going to launch the results. Oh, that's good. So everyone can experience this. Shawana, tell us about a time where a shift in attitude positively changed project attitudes and outcomes.
Absolutely. So this was my first faculty role back at an institution in Philadelphia called Thomas Jefferson. And I was a new faculty member and assistant professor at the time. And I was a part of the Women's Health Gender Related Nurse Practitioner Program. And it was the first day of orientation for our new students. And I was there with a director who taught me when I was a student. And we went through the whole one day, we call it a boot camp because they learn various procedures and got some didactic as well. But after that, there was a requirement from our associate dean at the time that we needed to transition back to in-person and that we couldn't be remote or online any longer. And that had a lot to do with the pass race at the time. So the director at the time didn't tell me, but she sent the email to the associate dean resigning from the position. So me, new to a role, was asked to fill these big shoes that I never filled before. I was first year or a few months into my role as a full-time faculty, and never directed a program. So it was a attitude of being fearful. What do you do? Do you say, no, I don't think I can do this right now? Could we do a search for somebody that may be more experienced or have directed a program before? Or do I have a positive mindset and take this as this is an opportunity to uplift a program, to reshape it in a way that really benefits the student and the institution, but more importantly, the patients that the students will go out there and serve. And I could have took it from the perspective of fear, uncertainty, and kind of feeling neglected and left, because again, the director didn't tell me she was leaving. I never got anything from her from that day. It only came from the associate dean. So I could have took it from like an abandonment and say, hey, you know what, let me step back to ask them to allow somebody else into the role. But I chose to take the positive route and a more optimistic route and say, this is an opportunity to support my students, to help transition how they're prepared to help increase the board pass rates. And I'll say from that opportunity, I stayed in that role for 9 years. And by the time I was within my first full year of the director role, my first time certification pass rates were at 100%. And it stayed that way throughout my 9 years there. And one thing I'm really happy about is that it was the most diverse program. And I know there's a lot going on around diversity and equity and inclusion, but it's so important when it comes to any form of healthcare. And my program was 75% diverse by the time I departed from the program. So that's a story that I think is so important, where you have to shift your mindset. What position do I take? Am I going to have a positive attitude to help move something along, or am I going to be negative and pessimistic about it? But I chose to be optimistic and more so opportunistic for the community, because I knew if I can shift how my students are prepared, I can change the health outcomes within the community.
What a story. Well done. And
Thank
being
you.
in a position of fear and looking at it as an opportunity. That's really something to share. Thank you so much for being transparent about that. So I want to move on to the next question about professional relationships, because this is all something everyone can relate to. And Shawana, it's even related to or is applicable to what you just shared with that awkward exit of the other person. But professional relationships plays a big impact every day on our work lives. And how should young leaders approach building the right relationships at work? I think that can be kind of hard to navigate at times. We're not going to do a poll question on this one, so we're just going to look to our advisors here first. But Sid, what would you say about how the young leaders should approach building the right relationships at work?
I think the idea of building relationships at work cannot be understated. You'll often have different cultures, different workplace norms, but one thing that is consistent across most places is how important it is to build the right relationships early and build them for the long term. I think being aware and intentional about how we are showing up as young professionals is very important. And that is something you see not a lot of people put a lot of thought into often. They say, many places say that we are like a family. With a family, you can bring your whole self to work. But at work, you really should be bringing your best self to work. And how you show up with your colleagues and with your peers, and how you engage with them. So I think that awareness of what our brand is building to be, how we show up, how others are experiencing us, is very important to how we show up. Networking sometimes gets a bad rap, but networking really is about connecting with others at work. It's about being curious about others and their interests and their strengths and their areas of help that they might be looking for. It's about being a good listener, to listen to others and what their stories are. And really building those meaningful relationships in the context of work, to both be able to get help from others, but be able to help others as well. So being authentic, being mindful, and being intentional is how I would say professionals can really start to build the foundation of building meaningful relationships at work, both in terms of finding peers, finding mentors, finding champions, and over the course of their careers.
Yeah, really good takeaways there. And just like you said in the beginning, just being your best self at work. And I think the rest might fall into place, but with intention, of course. Sid, Rachel, what would you add to that in your experience?
I think it's really important to create relationships and build across multiple levels. I think Sid alluded to this too by finding, champions and mentors and peers. Being a lawyer, when I first started out, it's like making friends with the paralegals was crucial. They know more than I do. And then, making friends with the other associates at my level, and then maybe like 1 or 2 years above us. And then around like the mid-level, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe a younger partner, maybe an equity partner. And there's so much, people have different perspectives across levels, across departments. And so I think, again, bring your best self, meet people, and be really curious about what their work is about, what they're interested in, what are they doing, what's an exciting project they're working on these days, or what's going on in their outside lives. And when you remember these details about people, so my workplace circulates a monthly newsletter, and people's birthdays are on there. So I will usually take a look and I'll see like, who do I work with a lot, or who do I know? And I'll put their names in my calendar. And my calendar will remind me it's so-and-so's birthday tomorrow. And so I will just shoot them a really quick note. In my almost 10 years of being a lawyer, only one person has ever wished me a happy birthday from that. And when that happened a few years ago, I was really shocked. I just did not expect it. But that really taught me an important lesson on how you can be really intentional and thoughtful. And I think when you start out in the workplace, being a thoughtful employee, being a thoughtful associate is really, really valued. So like taking really small cues from the people that you meet. If you see something great that someone is doing and taking notice and that you can, lean on, lean into, or kind of emulate, adopt into your own style. I think the best way to do that is by making these relationships and learning from whoever you can. Everybody has something to provide. And I think you'll find that not one person can give you kind of everything that you're hoping to learn. So it might be that, from Sid, you're getting certain qualities, from, Tom, other qualities, Shawana, from Rachel, from Jenny, right, from Jamie, from Lewis, you're getting like different types of qualities. And so by only meeting with others, would you know, oh, this quality in Rachel really resonates with me, right? This person, like Drew, is really great at this. I really love how Scott does this on phone calls. Be curious about that, and don't be shy asking people to coffee or to lunch. I remember feeling really shy as a first-year associate, like, do I come across as like, is that creepy if I ask like a male partner, can we go to lunch? Like, is it okay if it's just me? Like, do I need to bring other people? I would say, don't worry about that. So long as your intentions are about work, it will not come across as creepy. Of course, if you feel creeped out, then you need to tell the right people. But I think don't be shy. People really love eager learners and love eager, like new colleagues. So be brave.
One thing I'd quickly add to that, Rachel, you made a very good point. One of the best ways of learning about other areas of the business, the company, and work is making the intentional effort to go talk to people, network with people that are not in your day-to-day scope of work either. So I think that's one of the best ways, because you can't do every job, but you can learn more about other jobs. And one of the best ways of doing that is actually building those relationships with people who do jobs other than yours, whom you may not interact with, but you get to learn a lot more about what their day-to-day is about.
100%. So when I was a first-year associate, my firm had a program where if you went to lunch or coffee with anybody at the firm, it was reimbursed. So I made it my like part-time job. Every day I had a lunch booked and a coffee or a smoothie run booked every day. And it was such a great tool in meeting lots of people. And for other summer associates or first-year associates who were not as good at doing that, they would just tag along with mine. And more the merrier. But making that investment and meeting lots of people has really paid dividends for me.
Yeah, the lessons that you can learn and the best practices you can learn from everybody goes a really long way. And like you said, you can decide what you want to apply to your own professional best self, right? And I think some of the things you can learn is to make sure that you're in line with your goals. And that leads us into our next question of checking your alignment. When is the best time to pause and assess if your mindset is in alignment with the ultimate project or professional goal? Alumni, this is another poll. So here you go. Take this yes or not yet, please. And then hit submit. All right, Tom, once we see the answer, I'd like to hear your experience on this one. Oh, a 50-50 split. So half of us are regularly assessing and half of us are not yet. So the question again is, when is the best time to pause and assess if your mindset is in alignment with the ultimate project or professional goal? Tom?
So before you start, I think you should have you need to make sure you're in alignment with your supervisor, where the project's coming from. But then there needs to be a regular cadence of check-ins, and it depends on the nature of the project. But I would say at minimum quarterly, it's assuming it's a big long-term project that, say, is over the course of a year or something like that. I would say minimum quarterly. But anytime you're feeling unsure or unsure if you're off course or not, just at least a quick check-in. Just to make sure. I'm a fervent believer in communication, especially we're a fully hybrid organization, so I've got team members all over the country, and sometimes all over the world, and so we need to be we don't see each other in the hall necessarily, so we have to have regular check-ins with video calls just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing and working toward the same goal.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of extra communication needed when you're virtual or hybrid, huh? And Shawana, what about in your experience? Do you have other best practices or times that you are intentional about when it comes to this?
I think the biggest thing is being mindful and checking in with oneself. So I even think about it for me, like it's an ongoing process. So I think we have different experiences throughout our life, right? And we have different life experiences that may happen, right? So how do we check in with ourselves to say, is this still the pathway I should be on, or do I need to readjust, change alignment, shift some goals based on what's happening now? So for me, it's an ongoing process to always check in with myself to make sure what I'm proposing is where I should be at the moment. And I use almost like a light system. It's green, yellow, and then red. So the green means I'm doing this within the next 3 to 6 months. Yellow is okay, 6 months to 1 to 2 years. And then for red, that's like 2 years and beyond. But I always say is really checking in with oneself. I think it's the most important is to understand where you are presently from a physical, emotional, and mental perspective to ensure you have the ability to continue with those specific goals that you outline and being okay with changing it. I always say, for me, I'm like water. Water always flows no matter what, right? It goes through the crack, it'll make its way through. So no matter what, I say flow like water. If you have to shift a little bit to go around, if you have to drip, drip, drip a little bit to get down, that's okay. But being okay with changing directions. And I have this conversation a lot with my students because they have these goals. They want to graduate this specific time and start practicing. But sometimes things happen that are out of their control and they need to take care of themselves or a loved one. And sometimes that causes them to have to shift their goals and plans. And I always say, it's not the pathway you get to where you get, it's the point that you get there, right? And your journey is your experience that you'll be able to have a story. And we all should have a story. So even when I look at applicants that may not have these high GPAs, I always say, well, let me call them because they have a story. And the story helps me understand how they got to where they are. And it's very powerful. So I say flow like water. Always check in with yourself and be okay with shifting based on where you are at that moment.
I like that metaphor. Good. And it's a good visual to have the green, yellow, red when it comes to your time frame and your goals. And I think that that would be a good thing to apply to this next thought of staying motivated, working towards goals when things feel like they're getting off course or they're progressing slowly. So alumni, one more poll question for you. There you go. I'll let you read it. Okay. And Sid and Rachel, I'd love to hear from you on this. Rachel, you can start. All right, 91% do have a method. That's great. So how do you stay motivated and working toward your professional goals, especially when progress feels slow or uncertain, Rachel?
Yeah. It's admittedly, so we have to acknowledge that it's hard sometimes, right? It's really hard to run at 100+% all the time. And so for me, when I'm starting to feel down, I have this successes inbox, like subfolder in my Outlook. And throughout the year, if like someone said a funny joke, or if someone gave me a great compliment, I just store these in my folder. I have, other photos or other things saved on my phone. And when I feel down, I start scrolling through that kind of as a gentle reminder on like what I'm here doing, right? Like, what am I shooting towards? Why do I like this so much? A reminder of sometimes it's like reaffirming who I am as a lawyer or as a person. And just scrolling through the things that people have told me in the past and how they've affirmed me. Sometimes you need that pick me up, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to be vulnerable about that. But when you do feel that, that's what I tend to do. I tend to look through my old records. I actually have I have a bunch of boxes in my office right now, but I have reviews saved from when I was a first year associate, second year associate, third and fourth year, just to remind me again on what people saw when I was a, up and coming associate. So that's what helps me.
I like that. How about you, Sid?
I do a bit of that as well. But when I get an email like that, I want to keep on a quick recall. I tag it so I can quickly find it when I go through it when I need to, not just once a year when you're doing your performance reviews. I think a couple of things on this one. Big goals, end goals can be daunting, right? For ambitious people, you putting a big audacious goal out there. You have to remember to break your goal into smaller milestones and celebrate achieving those milestones along the way as well. Long journeys, long professional arcs can get daunting and tiring, but keeping yourself energized and motivated through achievement of those goals, milestones along the way, I think can be equally relevant and valuable. It's important to keep the end goal in mind, but I try and not be so rigid that you get so hung up on achievement of that end goal so much that you don't keep the space for small deviations or experiences that can be additive in getting to your end goal. No matter what content creators say nowadays, few career trajectories are step functions or hockey sticks. There are these circuitous up and down pathways that you navigate. I akin them to a mountainous road where often you're going around the bend and you can't see anything on the other side, but you just know that you're getting to the other side slowly but surely. The other thing that's recently helped me get a better handle on this is Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a neuroscience researcher at Stanford University, has done some work around dopamine in our bodies and in our minds and how we operate. And he talks about enjoying the process along the way, not just the end goal, not just the achievement of the goal. And that's helped me get a better handle and a better sense of how I want to manage my motivations and start to enjoy the process more. It's hard to do if you're not an athlete sometimes, but I've been trying to do be more along those lines.
Those are good reminders. Yeah, like the milestones is so critical to remind yourself of. It can be really daunting if you're just stuck on the long-term big plan. And seeing things get in the way or pause. So those are great reminders. We do have a little bit of time for the alumni to ask questions if you'd like. We have a few minutes if there's anything in particular you want to ask any of the advisors on any of these topics. That's okay if not. Okay. And then advisors, what about you? I know, Tom, I don't know that I gave you the chance to answer the question about a shift in attitude and how it positively changed a project. Do you want to add to that one?
Sure. And I mean, I can go into this a little bit more in my breakout, but when I was hired in my current job, I was hired to run the creative services team. And the creative services team, for those who don't know, does everything internal from designing promotion materials, working with the advertising agency, all sorts of design, sales sheets, that kind of thing, back office design. And the attitude in my group wasn't great. People sort of felt like we were servicing everybody else, that we were sort of serving other departments, and that meant we were kind of low in the hierarchy. And I came in having I had worked at an advertising agency for a couple of decades, so I'm very comfortable in a service role. And I felt like we were absolutely in a service role, and that was wonderful. But the trick was, it wasn't that we were serving other departments. It was that all of the departments were serving the books, and we're all working together to make sure the right book gets to the reader who needs it. And that's the job. And so when you shift who you think who you're serving and what that, it was sort of it changed the understanding within the group, and it changed the dynamics amongst the groups. And it's been a great success, I think, really. I mean, I think everybody understands the designers, they have an expertise in design. We need that expertise in design to, show books to copywriters. We need, you're not writing the books, but you're writing the line that makes sure that the book is understood by the person who needs the book. They see the line, they go, oh, that's the book I need. They can't, that's essential to what we're doing. The data analysts, we need to know that the ads are working to, reach the people, that reach the audiences. That's essential work. You feel like you're invisible, but without you, we don't know what we're doing. We're just sort of throwing stuff out there. So that attitude shift made a big difference in my department, and we've been growing, and we've been taking on different roles. We ended up changing the name because it wasn't even really a services group. We changed it to Creative Studio because we took on organic social media, and we took on email outreach and audience development and all these kinds of things. But we're still serving the books, and that was a very important shift for us.
Yeah, reframing the motivation, right? The why behind everybody's day to day. That's a really good point. Thank you. I'm glad you added that. Well, as we've heard, there's so much to apply and so many examples of how attitudes do impact organizational and individual success. And I like hearing all the different experiences and unique careers that you're all sharing, and really appreciate your transparency. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie. We're going to hear from the alumni here for a little while, and we'll take our group photo after that. And Jamie, a familiar face to our alumni, please say hello.
Hello. How is everybody? So nice to see you guys. This is such a good group. I'm very excited. I've seen a lot of you 2 to 3 times in the last 3 months, and that's just really excites me. So it's so great to see all your amazing faces, and thank you to our advisors. This topic can tend to be dry, and you guys just did such a good job of bringing it to life. So thank you. Okay, so we're just gonna, as Jenny mentioned, have the alumni introduce themselves. I put the question in the chat that you all are going to answer. So feel free to introduce yourself however you want, maybe where you work, where you live, your history at Greenhouse, whatever you want. And then answering the question, name a professional leader or executive that fully embraces positivity to drive organizational success. I'm just going to go in the order of who I see on my screen, but I'll give you guys a heads up kind of in the chat who is coming up next. And if we have time, maybe we'll hear this answer from our staff too. So we will start with the A names. So we have the one and only Anthony AJ Rucker, Aisha Rahman, and Annika Leroy. So AJ, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Rucker. I am a Greenhouse 2021 Scholar alum. Received my economics bachelor's from DePaul University and am now working at Northern Trust as a program manager within risk controls enhancement. And I'm also the founder and CEO of Rucker Insights LLC, a management consulting firm focused on providing marketing, coaching, speaking. To answer the question of a professional leader that fully embraces positivity to drive work success, I think about first and foremost Stephen R. Covey. So Stephen R. Covey is the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, among many other phenomenal books. He's also the co-founder of Franklin Covey Publishing Company, just for anyone who's unaware. But The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People specifically was a life-changing book for me. And that entire framework is one where I was introduced to it at 17, and it changed my life. It changed how I look at the world and how I approach work and building relationships. And highly recommend the book, and highly recommend even exploring the model. And many of the things that we spoke about this evening, I just kind of kept having different reference points to that book and to the literature. So that's what it is for me.
Thank you, AJ.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aisha, class of 2019 alum, based out of Chicago. My background is in biomedical engineering. I recently got my master's in design and health, focusing on, UX design and strategy and research. Currently, I'm freelancing. I just finished up a contract where I got to work with the state of Illinois on Medicaid and understanding the voice of the customer, which was really neat and rewarding. A professional leader that fully embraces positivity. So a small shop design studio here in Chicago called Greater Good Studio. The founder of it, his name is George A. Absolutely phenomenal person. Used to work at a bigger shop, IDEO, if you guys have heard of it. But decided that, really wanted to take his skill sets and began serving the community. So the consultancy is based around taking clients who are nonprofits or just trying to create social good with the work that they're doing. And really has been an inspiration for me pursuing design as a method of helping people and using it from that frame of reference. And he does some really great talks about talking about taking on a client as a consultant, the net positive you can make in society by doing so, and also maybe sometimes the negative that can come with that as well. Anyways, I would highly recommend you check them out. Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Well, there were a lot of good themes and takeaways tonight. I couldn't choose just my top 5 or 6 or 3, so I put them all up here. I'll let you scan these, but the ones that really stood out to me was actually number 1, that power of positivity that Shawana had shared, and the solutions-oriented mindset, the curiosity and learning, self-reflection and mindfulness, and celebrating small wins. Those were some that stood out. But anyway, thank you, advisors, for all of your wisdom that you shared this evening. So on the next slide, I just want to recap a few things. And I'll also put those, hold on, let me also put those in the chat before I forget. That's going to be a long chat. Oh, it might not even let me do it. Nope, I'm over my word limit. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, well, I'll get those to you. But our upcoming sessions, just as a reminder, we've got the whole person session coming up on March 18th. The theme is adaptive goal setting for personal growth. So alumni, if you're not signed up for that one and that's interesting to you, please send me an email. And then we've got the all advisor session. So you'll see these same 4 advisors in April, on April 29th, and you'll select a workshop within each theme, either leadership, professional, and personal. So you can select a workshop. And then Ignite, oh my goodness, August is going to be here soon. I think it's going to be here soon. If you want Ignite info, right now we do have the website live, so you can scan that QR code and get the information that's readily available or currently available as things stand now. There's going to be an alumni survey put in the chat that Jamie probably just did. Yes, this is the survey alumni for you. We really appreciate your feedback. I know you attend these regularly and we try to improve them every time. So please let us know what we can do better next time, or if there's any themes that you want to focus on for next time. And that's all right. Advisors, I'll also send you a survey, but we'll do that via email. And if there are any additional questions, I will share the advisor's contact information with all the alumni. You can also connect on People Grove, of course, LinkedIn, but People Grove is our greenhouse community platform online. So there will be ways to follow up with each other afterwards. Okay, thank you for joining. Thank you for putting the time into this valuable learning opportunity to connect and share each other's wisdom. And I look forward to the next time. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good to meet you.
Everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hello.
Bye.
Thank you.
Tyler, are you gonna hang out with us?
Yeah, for just a second.
Annika left. Is like, is Annika hanging out?
Thank you so much. for
Thank you,
everything.
Tyler. You're welcome. We're gonna see you so much this week.
We're gonna see you
I
in
know.
2 days.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I have to find a
Tyler's
motel
still
because
hanging.
yeah, I wanted to I don't want to have to drive back up that night. So it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna drive early, miss the traffic, and I'll be there for everything. So I can't believe I get to see y'all in person.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Jenny and I
Literally in
fly out in the
California.
morning. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like less than 24 hours for you. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yes. Well, I won't keep you long. I just want to say thank you to y'all for a lot of reasons. But thank you so much for the effort you put into everything. I know it's a job and maybe a calling, but y'all are killing it. So
Thanks,
That
Tyler.
means
We
a lot, Tyler.
appreciate you. Yeah.
I appreciate y'all. So thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jamie. Jay's all tonight. So
Yeah.
get some sleep and have a good work day tomorrow.
J team.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Good job, guys.
Bye-bye.
We did it.
That's fine.
Yeah. I think it went well.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that was
Good
pretty
job.
smooth. It was fun to hear the alumni get into those questions.
Yeah, I
like
like
that
that a
part.
lot. Yeah, I think it was worth, figuring
Yeah.
it out and letting them all go. So that was, and we finally got